Tonight, a migrant in this country illegally is waiting extradition to Maryland, where he will face charges. Charged with killing Rachel Morin, the mother of 5, murdered 10 months ago while on a popular hiking trail. The 23-year-old suspect from El Salvador crossed the border illegally early last year, just 2 months after he was accused of killing another woman in his home country. We'll speak to one Maryland lawmaker on how officials are tying this case to U.S. immigration policies. Plus, who mutes the mics? Candidates for president muzzled at the big debate? The ground rules for that clash are just out today as the nation awaits the first presidential debate just 10 days from now. Mick Mulvaney is here to weigh in. And the right thing for our kids, or is it government overreach? The Surgeon General wants the same warning label you see on a pack of smokes on social media platforms, saying the sites are to blame for the mental health crisis among America's youth. And one lawmaker gets grilled over a now deleted Father's Day post that went up in flames. The Hill on NewsNation starts right now. I'm Mike Vaccaro filling in for Blake Berman. Joining the panel today is Michael Starr Hopkins, Democratic strategist. Ashley Davis is here. She's a former George W. Bush White House official. T.W. Arrighi, former communications aide to Lindsey Graham and Mike Pompeo. And Brad Howard, former senior aide to House Democrats. And tonight, is it true to life or is it a cheap fake? Another video purporting to show a zoned-out President Biden, taken by the arm by Barack Obama and guided off the stage at the end of that high-dollar fundraiser Saturday night in Los Angeles. At least that's the way it appears in a version posted by the Republican National Committee. But the Biden campaign says a longer video from a different angle shows Biden engaged with the crowd of supporters. And it is hitting back hard, not only at Republicans, but the media that ran with it. Okay, this is sort of, spin is a normal thing in Washington. Yeah. Now we have the video version of spin. Why would the Republicans put this out? And which one is more viable? Which one do you buy? Which version?
There's a narrative around President Biden that his age is something that we should be concerned about. Now, when you look at that video, it was edited in a way that fits that narrative. However, Republicans all know that's not what the full video looks like, and that's exactly why people don't trust Republicans.
Oh, there's the gauntlet is thrown.
First of all, that's ridiculous. I don't know. Don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining. We've seen this movie about 1,000 times. We've seen this movie about 1,000 times. Look, I had a grandfather who suffered through neurodegenerative disease. I am not a doctor, so I'm not going to comment on Joe Biden's ailments or what he doesn't have.
So we can stop
but
there.
I know what it looks like when a man shuffles his feet. I know what it looks like when his hands get frozen when he talks. I know what it looks like when you lose your train of thought in the middle of a conversation. Joe Biden, 12 years ago, indistinguishable from that guy we saw on stage. Don't BS it and say, oh, he was, looking at the crowd. It didn't look like that to anybody.
So, well, go ahead.
No, this is just going to continue from now until the election.
But why is that? Why is it going to continue? Obviously, the Republican sense of vulnerability.
Well, absolutely. I mean, and I hate to say it as well, but he does walk like an older person, but also
because
Trump,
he is.
That doesn't necessarily indicate that he's got acuity problems the way he walks. Right?
But how he walks and has a blank stare. I mean, come on,
let's
guys,
be clear.
But Trump's obviously not that far, behind
right.
him. He's made his own gaffes. So
Trump may not have any physical ailments, but the things he says is just nuts. Sometimes it makes no sense. He just rambles and he says words on the prompter that weren't meant for him to say. But in this situation, a lot of Democrats are also mad at President Barack Obama here because if he had not grabbed him and moved him, the interpretation would have been differently because he was standing there he looks like he's taking in the crowd. He's like looking around saying, this is awesome. I've got a room full of supporters, as anybody would.
But I mean,
if Obama had not done that, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
I don't think you can blame Barack Obama.
No, I don't. I think he was being genuine in what he was doing.
Okay, so the comeback from a lot of Democrats is, the former president had a rally in Detroit over the weekend where he was talking about his own mental acuity, and he cited the White House doctor at the time, now a congressman, recently appointed to the Intelligence Committee. Do we have that soundbite from the president in Detroit?
I think you should take a cognitive test like I did. I took a cognitive test and I aced it. Dr. Ronnie Johnson, does everyone know Ronnie Johnson, congressman from Texas? He was the White House doctor.
Okay, one problem. It's not Ronnie Johnson.
No.
When you're trying to make a point about your sharpness and your passing them with flying colors.
But he called the CEO of Apple's last name Apple. But it doesn't mean that he doesn't exhibit energy and exude some sort of.
But this goes
he can talk for 2 hours straight at a rally. Joe
and
Biden
make no sense and make absolutely no sense.
No, he's just Trump.
But like at the end of the day, this goes to this broader narrative that we have two candidates who are elderly, and the nation has a problem with it. They don't really want to see either of these guys running again, but yet that's where we are because of issues inside of both parties.
I personally think the bigger news story there is Congressman Jackson being pointed to the House Intelligence Committee. There's a lot of Republicans that are upset about that and were blindsided by that. But yeah, we're going to see this for the remainder of the campaign.
Okay, I just want really quick a soundbite from the president at that rally, at that big star-studded fundraiser on another issue where he thinks he can get traction.
The idea that if he's reelected, he's going to appoint 2 more flying flags upside down is really, I really mean it.
Could this be the scariest part of all of it?
Well, I think it is one of the scariest parts.
Ashley, they're taking the gloves off. Convicted felon is the ad in the battleground states from the Biden campaign talking about former President Trump. Is it going to work?
Absolutely. And former President Obama is the one who brought that up, not Biden, because of obviously what's just happened with Hunter. I mean, it's a different. But I just want to make one comment about the star-studded event. This is why general Americans do not like that stuff.
Disconnect from Jimmy Kimmel and Barbara Streisand.
Jimmy Kimmel, who people don't like. Right. Yeah. I mean, I mean, obviously he raised over $30 million, so it was.
Right. I mean, that buys a lot of
but that's the stuff people
ads.
Don't like and say that he's out of control.
Real quick, Brad.
Well, I would just say that wasn't aired on TV. Like, it was a private fundraiser, to your point, because it's not like no one really cares what coastal elites are. But, you know, President Trump had billionaires in Mar-a-Lago. Everyone needs billionaires to fund their elections. This is a political reality that both sides are going to take advantage of.
But no one knows our star status.
It's a little more watch out for that attack line, though, because you're going to hear Democrats put the Supreme Court in front a lot.
We're going to try to come back to that. We're going to move on to that tragic story out of Maryland over the weekend. Maryland authorities announced the arrest of a wanted fugitive from El Salvador who's suspected of brutally killing a mother of 5 in Maryland's Harford County. 23-year-old Victor Antonio Martinez Hernandez was arrested in Tulsa, Oklahoma. That was on Friday. Martinez Hernandez originally fled El Salvador early last year, where he was wanted for the murder of another woman. He currently faces first-degree murder and first-degree rape charges in Maryland. 37-year-old Rachel Morin was walking on a hiking trail in Bel Air, Maryland, when she was allegedly attacked and killed by Martinez Hernandez. The local sheriff blames the Biden administration.
1,800 miles away here in Harford County, we are 1,800 miles away from the southern border, and the American citizens are not safe because of failed immigration policies. This is the second time in just 2 years that an innocent Harford County woman has lost her life to a criminal in our country illegally.
And joining me now is Republican Congressman of Maryland, Andy Harris. He is a member of the Appropriations Committee. Congressman Harris, thanks very much for joining us. So the Harford County Sheriff there blamed all this on Biden administration policies. He called them a failure. Wes Moore, the governor of your state, a Democrat, also had some things to say, though I think he was putting it more in Congress's responsibility. What's your reaction, first of all, to the arrest and the comments by the sheriff?
Well, this has nothing to do with Congress. This has to do with Joe Biden's wide open border policy. And the border was wide open early last year when this thug from El Salvador, who had committed murder in El Salvador, crossed our open border and headed for sanctuary states. I mean, that's the problem. Maryland is a sanctuary state. Harford County is not a sanctuary jurisdiction, but Maryland is a sanctuary state. And he came here and committed a vicious crime.
Over the weekend, you tweeted, quote, "The Biden administration owes justice to Rachel Morin's family and to so many families from across our country for allowing a violent migrant crime to run rampant in our communities." So what would you like to see happen to stop people like this individual from coming across the border and committing these kinds of crimes?
Well, we have to just close the southern border. We have to finish building the wall. We have to have strict enforcement, and we have to stop processing people in and let our border agents actually close the border. They're busy doing social work now, processing thousands of illegal immigrants every day instead of keeping our border secure.
And Congressman, Former President Trump, of course, the presumptive GOP nominee, says he wants to deport the some 11 million people who are here illegally in this country and have been for quite some time. Is that possible? Do you support that policy, that effort?
I absolutely support that effort. The fact of the matter is that they're here illegally. They should be deported. They're eligible under law for deportation, and we should deport them. The bottom line is we can't have these criminals running around the United States. We don't know who they are. Again, obviously, millions have crossed our border, like this person from El Salvador. The solution is, if they're not here legally, send them back to where they came from and have them get back in line to enter the country legally, if they choose to.
A couple of weeks ago, Congressman, President Biden angered a lot of people in his own base, the Democratic base, by cracking down on asylum cases and the ability to claim asylum when individuals try to come into this country. Now, tomorrow, we expect the other shoe to drop to try to sort of make those hurt feelings from his base a little bit better. An executive action, we understand, it's been reported, to protect undocumented spouses of U.S. citizens and allow them to ultimately get a green card. What's your reaction to this proposal?
Look, I'm not sure the president has the authority to do it. There is a pathway for spouses of U.S. citizens to get citizenship, but it's not by crossing the border illegally. And the bottom line is that we have to crack down on illegal border crossings.
Okay, switching to another big headline from Maryland. Governor Wes Moore, seen as a rising star in the Democratic Party, you're probably aware, he's expected to pardon 175,000 marijuana convictions, 100,000 individuals. What's your reaction to that? Is that the right move? After all, Maryland, anybody who's over 21 can walk into a dispensary, whether you have a medical prescription or not, and buy marijuana.
Look, here's the problem. The problem is pardons should be done on a case-by-case basis, because we know, for instance, that a lot of times more serious drug crimes are plea bargained down to marijuana possession in order to free up the court system. So some of these people may have actually been dealing illegal, much stronger drugs, dealing them illegally, and just got plea bargained down to a marijuana possession. That's why pardons should be on a case-by-case basis, not a blanket 175,000 people pardoned.
All right. Congressman Andy Harris, we thank you for your time today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, panel. A lot of questions coming out. I'm going to start out with employee number one of the Department of Homeland Security in the Bush administration.
White House Office of Homeland Security.
Oh, sorry.
That was
you were there at the creation, so a lot of this is relevant, right in your wheelhouse.
Yes, I have a lot to say about it, but I'll keep it succinct.
The Biden administration. The other shoe is dropping, as I said. They want to assuage all these hurt feelings. Assuage is a word, it's not a television word. I would suggest against it. When he cracked down on asylum, this would open the door for people who are married to U.S. citizens who are not here, who are perhaps here illegally, to get a green card. Will it work?
Well, I agree with the Congressman Harris. I don't think that it will survive the courts, but it's amnesty is really what they're doing.
Amnesty is the word we're going to hear a lot.
Yes, I mean they're still crossing the border illegally, and we're still awarding bad behavior. But can I go back to some other stuff? Or
sure, deporting 11 million people. That's what else I was going to ask you about.
Well, I was going to say,
how's that going to work?
So we've hit but we've just hit 10 million people that have come across this border since Biden came in. We had the DHS secretary today saying that the biggest threat in our homeland is foreign nationals. Yeah. The people terrorists that want. He didn't use the word terrorist, people that want to hurt us. So because of our border, because of the people that were arrested last week that are ISIS sympathizers, there's no reason, I'm going to stick up for our border agents right now, there's no way that the 10 million people can ever be managed. And of course people are going to get through our system. And my language is a little bit different than the congressman's, but we need the stay in Mexico back in place. Okay. We need the I don't want to say the wall, but
what about the politics, the political reality? There were people that are upset with it.
And
in the
he's
Democratic
just doing
Party.
this thing tomorrow, potentially on Tuesday, yesterday is another executive order to kind of help with the left that he just made mad last week, which is fine.
That's the way politics.
No, I agree.
Policy
I'm not
and vice versa, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, what we have here is there's the political side of it and the actual reality of it. We can't deport 10 million people. The idea we're going to round them up and put them into camps to deport them is impossible. But there is a real problem with our border. It is porous. There is a threat, and Democrats risk every day that there's an attack, and we will be blamed for it. So we have to do something.
Real quick.
Thanks for taking 3 years to get that done. It's been a disaster. People are dying. I don't know how many more stories we need to see of this. As just mentioned, 8 terrorists from Tajikistan, ISIS tied, got arrested last week. When does the madness end? It's a ticking time.
Right, real quick, I agree with the president here that sure, he can try to close the border, but you need funding and resources to actually implement the closing of a border. We had the chance to do that in a bipartisan deal with the Senate. President Trump killed it.
And that's what Wes Moore said today. Okay, moving on. Tonight, on Dan Abrams Live, an exclusive ride-along with ICE, not at the southern border, but in a major American city. See how the immigration issue is impacting America far beyond the border. That's tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern, only on NewsNation. Okay, coming up, one is a reclusive dictator with a nuclear arsenal. The other has started the first ground war in Europe since 1945. Now the two are set to meet. Should the U.S. be worried? I'll talk with retired four-star General Wesley Clark. Plus, when do hot mics go cold? Answer, when the candidates go at it at the first presidential debate. At least that's the plan. Kelly Meyer reports from the White House on what we can expect. And is the Republican National Committee really preparing for the possibility of a convention without their presumed nominee, Donald Trump? We'll discuss that with Mick Mulvaney when The Hill on NewsNation returns. Welcome back. For the first time in 24 years, a Russian leader is set to visit North Korea. That's starting tomorrow. There was a lot of speculation about a possible trip by Vladimir Putin after North Korean leader Kim Jong-un visited Russia last September. Russia says the two countries may sign a partnership agreement that would include security issues, but they assure us would not be directed against other countries. Okay, so joining us now to discuss the importance of this visit is retired Army General Wesley Clark. He is the former NATO Supreme Allied Commander. General Clark, thanks for joining us very much. So what are these two leaders up to? I mean, Kim Jong-un has an arsenal at his disposal, not only nuclear weapons, but is supplying Russia with much-needed artillery and other battlefield weapons as it brings the war to Ukraine.
That's right. You said it. He's providing munitions. He's providing artillery, apparently some tanks. And so I'm sure the meeting is about how can Putin get more of it and what's it going to cost him. And he's got plenty of technology to give, and he's got plenty of international support to give to Kim Jong-un. And Kim Jong-un has a pretty robust armaments industry. Makes his own artillery, got some long-range artillery, the so-called Koksan guns. He's got a lot that he could offer Putin in sort of basic military stuff.
Okay, and so what does Vladimir Putin have to give him in exchange? I guess money's the obvious answer, but what's the advantage for Kim Jong-un to take Putin's side in this war that he's prosecuting in Ukraine?
You always need more military technology. Things like night vision, electronic warfare, maybe some more modern aircraft, some training systems, some sniper rifles, and some things as drones, giving the North Koreans some insight into what the battlefield is like. You bring some intelligence people in, you mix them in with the units, maybe even some soldiers from North Korea, and let them learn some lessons, because the North Korean army hasn't fought in 70 years. So they might, Kim might think that it's a good thing to get some of his soldiers out there, get their hands dirty, see some real combat.
Okay, so the United States has just given Ukraine $60 billion. But on the other side of the world, there are, 35,000 U.S. troops stationed in South Korea along the demilitarized zone outside of Panmunjom. This strengthens this trade and this alliance between Putin and Kim Jong-un strengthens North Korea. What should and can the United States be doing to try to break this link?
That's a good question, but there are some things you just don't break easily, and this is one of them. In fact, it's actually working the other way, because North Korea has been under a bunch of sanctions and restrictions, And for a while, Russia was supporting things like what was called the Missile Technology Control Regime, which was inhibiting the transfer of ballistic technology to and from North Korea. Russia sort of moved away from supporting any of that. They're not supporting us at the UN. And so Russia is bit by bit forming a bloc of nations that will work with Russia and cooperate against the United States.
Well, that's scary. Final question, and this is a little bit of a change of subject. The Biden administration is trying to get Wall Street journalist Evan Gershkovich out of jail. He's got a hearing starting this week in just a couple of days. It's, for all intents and purposes, the start of his trial. What should the Biden administration be doing? What leverage do they have to try to get him out of Russia before this farce continues?
You know, it's a real trade-off. I mean, obviously, the administration is going to say they're going to do everything possible, but we're just taking $50 billion of Russian earnings. We put new sanctions on Russian trading and so forth. And you have to decide sort of which way you come down on foreign policy. If you really believe Russia's the aggressive nation that they are, they invaded Ukraine unprovoked, then you have to ask yourself, what can you reasonably give that doesn't compromise your principles and your major foreign policy objectives? Mr. Gershkovich, I mean, it's a terrible thing. It's a dilemma that Russia has played with. Obviously, he's done nothing wrong. He's not a spy. This is just an effort to get Mr. Biden and the administration to compromise on the hard line they've taken.
All right. Four-star General Wesley Clark, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon, sir. Appreciate it. Okay, panel, let's dig into some of these issues now. Kim Jong-un, inscrutable, North Korea. A foreign policy that obviously threatens the United States, a nuclear arsenal at disposal, notwithstanding the détente that former President Trump had with him and the letters they exchanged and the trip over the DMZ rather. How big a threat is this meeting between these two, well, I'm going to call them both dictators?
It's deeply concerning, but it more highlights something about Russia, which is their economy is not strong. They're losing tons of people at the front, and they're losing tons of munitions. So they need more, and they're reaching out to the worst of actors. And for a long time, North Korea, even to Russia and China, was seen as a pariah. In fact, Mike Pompeo writes that Kim Jong-un used to think that the U.S. Being in the region was actually helpful because it kept both China and South Korea sort of at a distance. We've now crossed that barrier. My critique with the Biden administration has been speed. We should have got them what they wanted immediately years ago.
Well, I mean, there's a reason that
No. That was a presidential decision. And not sending them tanks, not sending them planes years ago, I would have done far more. We talked about sending them fighter jets.
But President Obama sent javelins over there?
No. I mean, the Biden administration once the war broke out.
Ashley, $60 billion, the United States, but former president said at a rally over the weekend he's going to end the war during the transition after he wins on November 5th. What's that going to look? Obviously, that's going to be a tough call if he's not president. But what's that going to look like? How do you end the war? Is that just ceding Putin what he's already gained by force?
No, I think he's thinking, and he said this along the campaign trail, that he thinks that he can negotiate a deal with Ukraine, whether it's parsing off some of the land and giving it back to Russia, and he thinks he can solve the problem. I don't know if he can or he can't, but what I think's happening in regards to Russia is what Putin did last week with Cuba, bringing the warships close to Russia, and then now doing this meeting. I do agree with you that they're in a hard spot, but I also think he's just so angry because of our weapons being used now in Ukraine and publicly being used that this is his kind of PR retaliation.
Well, 15 seconds.
I'll add real quick, too. I think my criticism of the Biden administration is just generally in Congress is that we don't focus enough on the Indo-Pacific region as a growing area of influence where China and Russia and North Korea are expanding their influence. We need to take this very seriously. And number two, to suggest that President Trump is the weaker supporter of Ukraine is not believable, and voters aren't going to accept that.
Okay, moving on. There's still much more ahead on the Hill, and one of those things is about black voters. Are they really warming up to the former president? Trump campaign seems to think so. Our Mick Mulvaney will join us for his analysis. And who should tell our kids what to watch on their phones, what to look at? A new proposal from a high-ranking Biden health official says it's time the government steps in. We'll discuss that after the break. Welcome back, everyone, to The Hill on NewsNation. The guardrails are up for the first presidential debate, but will they hold? That first showdown of 2024 between President Biden and former President Donald Trump will happen on June 27th. NewsNation Kelly Meyer is live from the White House with the just-announced ground rules. Kelly?
Yeah, hey there, Vic. Well, mic muting, timed answers, no audience. There are a lot of, as you mentioned, guardrails in place early to keep the two rivals in line for their first primetime debate in 4 years. So some new details confirmed by NewsNation. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer questions, 1 minute for rebuttals. There will also be a series of warning lights as candidates near the end of their time. Red lights will flash when they have 5 seconds left, and then a solid red light will come on when their times run out. There will be mic muting, as we mentioned, so while one candidate is answering questions, the other candidate's mic will be muted. No help from campaign aides during the 2 commercial breaks during that 90-minute debate, and no pre-written notes or props, just a pen, a pad of paper, and a bottle of water. There's also no audience, and their positions on stage will be determined by a coin flip. So Biden and Trump will be there, but right now, RFK Jr. doesn't meet the requirements to get on that stage, including appearing on a sufficient number of state ballots to reach the 270 electoral votes needed to win the presidency, and receive at least 15% in 4 separate national polls of registered or likely voters that meet the host's standards. But RFK Jr. insists he will meet the requirements by deadline. And as far as debate prep, we know President Biden will be heading to Camp David later this week, prepping with his former chief of staff, Ron Klain. And former President Trump, we know, didn't participate in those primary debates. And when he was asked how he would be prepping, some of his aides were just seeming to laugh it off. Vic?
Okay, Kelly, thank you. It is time now for Hot Mic with Mick. The former congressman, budget director, and White House chief of staff tells us what he's hearing and what he's thinking. Always interesting. All right, Mr. Mulvaney, has it really come to this? We need to mute mics at a presidential debate? These people want to run the country.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get over that opening graphic. Yes, keep in mind when it comes to freezing the microphones. I've been getting a lot of questions about who that is going to sort of favor. The bottom line is this. Remember, this debate is not being run by the Presidential Commission. It's being run effectively by the campaigns with the CNN network, which means both sides have agreed to this. So the Trump team thinks it's okay to turn off the mics after 2 minutes, and so does the Biden team. My guess is, Vic, it's a mutually assured destruction. That the Trump team wants to silence Biden after 2 minutes. Biden wants to do the same thing with Trump. And I think both sides are probably a little bit concerned about their guy talking too long. Remember, it was Donald Trump's inability to sort of get out of Joe Biden's way in the first debate back in 2020 that hurt the then current president so much. So, yeah, the rules are there, but let's not pretend that this is a debate commission imposing the rules. Yeah. These are the campaigns accepted the rules.
I think there's one thing that's obvious is that whoever comes out or is perceived to come out on the short end of this debate is going to say they were muzzled, that they were censored by CNN. CNN's in a tough position here.
They are, but I mean, look, there's a reason they have the 2 ads on it, right? They're going to make a tremendous amount of money. It's the first time we've had presidential, ads during presidential debates. To me, one of the more interesting things that Kelly just reported, though, and I hadn't heard this, was about the debate prep. Remember this. Yeah. Who did debate prep for Donald Trump in 2016 and 2020? It was Chris Christie both times. That was his debate sparring partner, and Chris Christie's really good at that. Chris Christie not going to be there with Donald Trump in 2024.
Yeah, well, the former president is famous for winging it, and apparently, according to his aides, that's what's going to happen this time as well. Meantime, the former president is battling President Biden for support from black voters in swing states. On Saturday, Donald Trump held a roundtable in Detroit, Michigan. It was at a predominantly black church, and in the launch of his campaign group, quote, Black Americans for Trump.
We've done more for, and I say this, I say it proudly, more for the black population than any president since Abraham Lincoln. That's a big statement. And crooked Joe Biden has done nothing for you except talk. It's only talk. It's all talk.
Okay, Mick, we know that President Trump has progressively gathered more in progressive elections of the black vote. Still a significant minority of black voters support him. Is he making inroads?
He is, or at least the campaign perceives it. This is real, Vic. This is not something they're sort of doing for show. My guess is you'll see more and more of this, especially in the swing states. Doesn't surprise me that they sort of rolled this out in Detroit. You're going to see it in Detroit. Yes, you'll see it in Milwaukee. They'll skip Chicago because they don't have a chance in Illinois. But if they perceive they have a chance, say, in Virginia, my guess is they'll be there as well. They think this is real. They see the same trend lines everybody else says. Romney got 4% of the black vote in 2012. Yeah. Trump then got 6, 12. Now he's polling someplace in the low 20s with the African-American vote. They think this is a big deal.
Okay, Mick, a recent poll from Suffolk University and USA Today shows Biden still leading Michigan with 54%. He seems to be losing support from black voters in Michigan and Pennsylvania by nearly 20% in comparison to 2020's election. So what are your thoughts?
That they've got a problem. And I'd be curious to know what the Democrats on the panel think. Why are they bleeding African-American votes this close to the election? Why are they just now reaching out to sort of solidify their base? Shouldn't the base have been tied up before mid-June? The answer to that, it's a rhetorical question. The answer is yes. So I think the Biden team perceives they have a problem just as much as the Trump team perceives they have an opportunity.
All right, a new report out claiming the Republican National Committee preparing for a scenario in which Donald Trump chooses or maybe is forced to not attend the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee next month. I mean, the sentencing, as we know, in New York, the 34 counts scheduled for July 11th, 4 days before that convention is supposed to start. What's going on here? Is this real?
It is, but I think it's blown out of proportion. They would be doing this likely anyway. Keep in mind, they had to move the debate at the last minute in 2020. They were supposed to be in North Carolina, had to move it to Florida. My guess is they learned a lesson there. They would have liked to have sort of a backup location. Trump was never going to go for the entire part of the convention anyway, and he would love to have a stage set up at Mar-a-Lago with crowds there so he can dial in. He might have guests down at Mar-a-Lago that they can video into the campaign. So it's just good preparation. But yes, there is a chance that he'll be under house arrest and won't be able to be there in Milwaukee. That being said, I don't foresee a circumstance under where he's under house arrest. He's probably the single most public person in the country. Where's he going to? Why would you put him under house arrest? So it's good preparation, but I think it has more to do with the experience in 2020 than it does with him actually maybe being under lock and key next month.
All right, hot Mike with Mick Mulvaney. I'm gonna get that right one of these days. Thank you. You mentioned Democrats; they're chomping at the bit over here. Quickly, guys.
I just got to say, there were about as many black people there as a glass of milk
at that church in Detroit.
Yeah, I've seen more black people on Friends than I saw in that crowd.
What I will say is two things. It's not just about persuasion. The Republicans are attempting persuasion. It's also, you've got to turn out voters. And Democrats have a successful history of being embedded in the black community in a lot of these places and has a strong GOTV operation. They have partnerships with churches and black civic groups to get out the vote. And so it'd be interesting to see if the Trump campaign really invests in GOTV with black voters.
And that's how the Biden administration will spend $30 million that they picked up in Los Angeles with the star-studded event. Okay. Meanwhile, did you see this? A local Milwaukee brewery has created a limited edition beer in response to President Trump supposedly calling the city of Milwaukee horrible. Mob Craft Beer is introducing the, quote, not so horrible city IPA and saying that it will donate $1 from every 4-pack sold back into the community. The beer is expected to roll out right before the RNC panel. Do you think they're going to be? I've been in Wisconsin a lot planning our coverage of the convention. They drink something called Spotted Cow up there. I don't know how much.
You know what else they drink?
What?
A domestic macro brew called Miller Lite. That is what red-blooded Americans drink. IPAs taste like urine. That should be called. That should be called horrible beer, not horrible.
I'm with you. I thought I was the only American male left who did not like IPA. Just give me a lager any day, man.
I don't think you're going to have much trouble convincing Wisconsinites to drink more beer.
About, like,
Listen, I picked a good time to stop drinking, but let me say, I think Republicans, you guys are in trouble with this. This is going to be something Democrats should be outside of the RNC advertising 24/7.
How many times has he said something that's supposedly going to like crush him and it never does?
Yeah, really. And this was really what he said is in dispute.
But this is also, I think, the Democrat and particularly black leaders' criticism of Trump and why they don't think it's going to translate down is because what they really mean when he says horrible city, he means an urban city with a big black population.
Yeah. Okay. Coming up,
Wow.
Should there be warning labels for social media? The nation's top doctor says yes. We'll talk about it. And speaking of social media, say cheese, why New York Senator Chuck Schumer is getting grilled over his now deleted Father's Day post.
Oh, yeah.
Tonight, a NewsNation exclusive, in the shadows of statues and skyscrapers.
Join us for our ride along with ICE to see what law enforcement's truly battling.
And how the immigration issue is impacting all America. On Dan Abrams Live, tonight at 9/8 Central on NewsNation.
Just as addictive as cigarettes and possibly just as harmful. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy thinks so. In a New York Times op-ed, he's calling on Congress to pass legislation requiring social media platforms to have warning labels similar to tobacco products. Murthy argues apps like TikTok are seriously harming our kids' mental health and self-esteem. So should it be up to the parents to take control of their kids' social media and not the government? This seems like sort of a classic government over.
This seems like a water is wet kind of thing.
That Mayor Bloomberg wanted to ban big gulp.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, is this defensible?
Well, I don't know. What I would like to see from a medical professional would be like more data to suggest that a warning would actually work.
I think there's plenty of data to suggest that
social media is garbage.
I think parents inherently know
are sort of being rewired and distorted. They're developing.
But I think mental health has got to be a focus, more study and research in how we address teen mental health, because it's a huge issue right now.
Right.
But I do think it's a little bit of an overreach. What I thought the most interesting thing today was that Senator Blackburn and Senator Blumenthal, who are sponsoring the kids' privacy bill with social media, I forget the exact
Kids Online Safety Act.
Yes, thank you. Which is more reasonable, and it kind of goes back to the companies that certain things need to be in place in regards to the tech companies. That makes more sense to me than putting a label.
But why can't parents,
really
why can't parents?
There is parents' responsibility too, which
you're 100% right. Look, this is at the end of the day a free speech issue. Are you going to start, putting labels on pamphlets and newspapers that say something salacious? No, look, social media is the worst. I think society has disintegrated since it's happened.
Right.
But there is a potential for it to bring us together, to make us learn more. It falls on the companies, and we need to create sensible legislation to make the companies.
Yeah, I mean, I have two young adults and one still a teen. His face is always in the phone. I worry about it a lot. Trying to stop it's like trying to stop a freight train
no
with your
chance.
hands. He's
banned it in schools, by the way. Ban phones in schools.
But to me, that's good. That would be a better use of resources, I think, is to help parents deal with this, because you've got a generation that knows more about technology than their parents.
All right, we can't miss this. A Father's Day pastime is a good old-fashioned barbecue, and who doesn't like a good old-fashioned barbecue on Father's Day? Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer still does, and he posted this now-deleted tweet where he appears to have put a slice of cheese on a raw burger. That could get messy. So reaction to the post was quick. Quote, "You don't put the cheese on before you flip them, regular guy." Another one, "So did the burger finally cook before you deleted the picture? And can you barbecue us up some burgers? LOL, hold the cheese." Okay. Does he really never barbecued a cheeseburger before? What's going on? Why not own it? Why did he delete
Every
it?
comms director just had a heart attack.
That's exactly what I just said. Look, I'm no grill hardo, but somebody's getting like salmonella from that. And there's 1,000 fouls in that video.
So who took that picture and then posted it? Because was a staff really?
My guess
I
is
have no idea.
Having been a comms director for politicians, they took the photo. They took the photo and sent it to the staffer. Yeah. The staffer either didn't want to be like, "Can you retake it with the proper?"
I
they didn't know.
I wouldn't have noticed except for the widespread ridicule. Okay.
I wouldn't have either. Nor would I have cared, to be honest with you.
All right. So what did we do for Father's Day? Did we barbecue? Did we grill?
I called my father. Unfortunately, I wasn't with him in person. Happy late Father's Day again, Dad.
Oh, there you go.
I spent an hour and a half on the phone with my dad. I don't think we've ever had a phone conversation that long, but it was good to talk to him.
We had a nice dinner. It was fantastic.
All right. I have, like I mentioned, 3 kids. We did have a barbecue.
Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
It was delightful.
Did they look up in the iPad to wish you Happy Father's Day?
I got a lot of texts, a lot of Reels videos mailed to me, Father's Day videos. Okay. Panel, thank you very much. Great panel today, and really enjoyed talking to you guys.
I love it.
All right, coming up, are liberal policies ruining the West Coast? That question was posed by New York Times, none other than Nicholas Kristof, not known as a conservative. I'll discuss that with Leland Vittert. He, of course, is the host of On Balance. That's coming up after the break. And before we say goodbye, here is a story that caught our eye. New York Times columnist Nicholas Kristof now questioning whether West Coast states and cities are a total mess because of what he calls failed Democratic leadership. Christoph saying, quote, liberals like me do need to face the painful fact that something has gone badly wrong where we're in charge. From San Diego to Seattle, we offer a version of progressivism that doesn't result in progress. And as a result, he argues, deep blue states on the West Coast have major homeless, drug problems, and crime problems compared to the East Coast. Host of On Balance, Leland Vitter, joining me now. And Leland, Christoph points out a main problem on the West Coast is there isn't any opposition party. There's no competition. There's no marketplace of ideas to sort of force people into the middle. What do you make of that?
That's the only problem. This highlights a larger issue, I think, for Democrats, and one that we're starting to see them realize and struggle with how to deal with, which is the following. In the coming presidential election, this Democrat, whoever it is, wants to turn the country into California. And that does not poll well because people see all of the issues that Nicholas Kristof just laid out, and they do not want a United States of California.
Well, I mean, this is sort of happening organically because in Portland, they've reversed some of the liberal policies that resulted in, or are in part responsible for the situation there. We've seen the local district attorney in San Francisco recalled, last year? So actual voters, whether they're liberal or not, are coming to this realization themselves.
Well, all bleeding stops eventually, which is what's happening in some of these cities, that people have come to their senses. But just in terms of a feeling of disorder that Democrats are fighting against, whether it's disorder on the economy, disorder on immigration, disorder on crime, Democrats are trying to figure out how to fight against that and the feeling that they are the party of disorder. Yeah. And what we're seeing in big cities, Los Angeles, San Francisco, you named Portland, Seattle, those scenes of disorder, even if the policies have changed, are still a problem for Democrats.
Okay, you're coming